time watching this film. And I know you've directed some huge movies in the past, but this one you obviously filmed under the radar, so to speak. So can you
Yeah.
maybe talk about that decision and some of the unique situations you, Rhys and Phoebe then found yourselves in?
Yeah. Well, it was a fantastic experience actually, because as you say, I've done big movies, but the idea for this movie was really to go around the world and see the world as it is. And the problem with when you go on a film, films are very disruptive and they draw attention to themselves. I didn't want people looking at us. I wanted to be looking at people. And so the idea was to shoot it on an iPhone, no boom mics, no lighting, and so that we could see the world sort of flowing by us. Um, and again, it wasn't a gimmick. It wasn't, merely a substitution for a motion picture camera. It was to give us access. We could go anywhere. We shot on airplanes in flight, full dialogue scenes, stolen shots. And we did a lot of that. We shot in crowded Cairo markets, and nobody looked at us because we were just, it looked like just some guy. Everybody's got an iPhone. And so, really, it's what we did. We kind of we made this international thriller, and it really, other films have been shot on the iPhone, but this is the first one that is an international thriller that has this scope that goes around the world. And we really went around the world. We went from New York to Cairo to Delhi to Seoul and back to New York. And we, the filmmakers, took that trip that the character takes.
It's amazing. And when you are taking an approach like this, I can imagine you really need to have two leads who you can rely on. And obviously Rhys and Phoebe, both fantastic in this film. But what made them right for you to play Sam and Maya in this story?
Well, I think for Phoebe, I was sort of intrigued with Phoebe after her, what she had done in Bridgerton. But that was a very kind of conservative part. She was sort of prim and proper. But when I met with her, I discovered, this whole other side of her. And in Inheritance, she's badass, she's witty and caustic and self-destructive and enterprising. And it's a Phoebe we haven't seen before. And then for Rhys, I needed somebody who was sort of affable and who you believed was a decent guy, even though he holds all these secrets. And Rhys is the most terrific person. And also, Rhys was a guy that was so game to do this, because it was putting the actors in a vulnerable position. We just put them on the street. We'd walk them on the street, and I'd, walk them to a place with people bustling around them. And then I'd walk away, leaving them there. And then I would just go, come on. And they would start acting and walking. And so it's interesting. The technique is the methodology changed the look of the movie, but it also changed how the actors acted. They had to, in a way, they had to always be in character. In a way, they were the hardest working people on the set, because anything can happen. If somebody bumped into them on the street, or if a siren went by or whatever it is, they had to react. They had to be in it. They couldn't just be like, oh, well, my part says I do this. They had to kind of always be in character.
Yes, fascinating. And as you said, you shot this film all over the world, but was there any one location where things got particularly challenging or maybe just a little dicey given where you were in the world?
Well, we were shooting at a restaurant in Cairo. And the way, again, we were leaving everything open. We weren't shutting anything down. We were shooting it, because we wanted the real life going around. And so we arrived at, and it's always hard to get a location. But this location said, okay, we'll let you shoot here and we'll stay open because you're, sort of small profile shoot. So we arrived there to shoot, and there were two armed soldiers with rifles standing in front of the door. And we were like, hey, we're going in, we're working. They like didn't even look at us. They just stayed there. And they weren't moving. And what had happened was the military owned the underlying property of this restaurant. And the restaurant, thinking that, oh, well, this is just a small shoot and we'll just take the money ourselves, didn't tell them. and they found out anyway, and they were not letting us in. So that took all sorts of fixing, and I don't know quite what, but but a little while later, the soldiers were gone, and we went in. But it was like, okay, we're dealing with something pretty intense here.
Yeah, and talking of intense, that motorbike chase, it's one of my favorite sequences in the film. Real edge of your seat, and again, like the rest of the movie, feels very real and grounded. But to figure that out and construct it when you are out in the world like that, you're not closing off, a whole city to shoot this thing. How difficult was that for you as a filmmaker?
Well, I think conceptually, the whole idea for me was that the film had a different language, and we weren't going to do things where we showed a close-up of the wheel of the bike and a close-up of his hand, revving the throttle and things like that. It was That's just not the way the movie was built. And so I literally just wanted to have a camera on her face the whole time, which we, maybe about 85% stick to. And just to have it and have like it be her experience and her emotion and her terror and just be in there like that. And so then it was, all right, how do we do it? And what we ended up doing was, we plotted the route. There was a very specific route where they went through and what happened when, and but we were filming on open roads. We were doing that motorcycle chase on open roads in Delhi, and we had a little perimeter around us, but often, the motorcyclists just, got ahead of the perimeter. So it was wild, and it does have this seat of the pants feel to it. It was safe, partly because Delhi has so much traffic that it's impossible to get going too fast. So, but Phoebe was game for it, and we had an incredible, stunt driver, and who was a good actor too. And we just went for it.
Oh, absolutely. And I've read some comments from you where you've described Phoebe's character as a kleptomaniac. And there's some interesting trivia there about sunglasses that she managed to take from the airport and you took back after the fact. But how challenging was it to get her to do that? Or was that something you built into the script, or did she kind of go off on her own tangent?
No, it was everything in the script is written. The script
Yeah.
is like ironclad, and it has to be because it's a thriller, and a thriller has all of these puzzle pieces that have to fit together, and if they don't, then it doesn't pay off at the end. So even though we were shooting in these real situations and open to what might happen, the script was the script, and that scene was scripted. And we told her about it, and she was like, "Great." And then comes to the day, and she's like taking a deep breath. It's like, okay, I'm going to do this. And we just walked. We were at the airport where we were going to take a flight to Egypt, and the crew took the same trip that she took, and it was a very small crew. And it was like, okay, you ready? We're going to do it. We were in a lounge, and then it was just she got ready, and we walked out behind her, and really just the cameraman and then me, 10 feet back, and a sound man just even further back with kind of the sound thing in his bag. And nothing else, just very raw and minimal. And and I had coached her on how to do it. There was a very specific method to do it so that she could get away with it. And she didn't just snatch it and run. It was a very kind of deliberate thing. And she went in there and did it. And I talked to her last night, and she said, there was no way I could ever do that twice. I only did that once. She actually did it twice. We did it, and then we came back and we did it again. She did it twice. And then we just put the sunglasses back at the end, and they had no idea that we'd even done it. They saw somebody with a camera, with with an iPhone next to her, and they just assumed, it's some influencer or something, or some
Yeah.
Instagram person or some friend doing it. But we had, 10 different contingencies. We had the same pair of sunglasses that we had bought at the same store on Fifth Avenue. We knew exactly what sunglasses she was going to take. We had that with a receipt. So if there was any kind of, kerfuffle about it or hassle, we had, 3 different explanations and contingencies, but we didn't use any of them. It happened. We pulled it off. It went just as it was scripted. It was great.
Well, an awesome moment in a movie full of them, Neil. And it was such a pleasure to speak to you as a fan of yours.
Thank
And
you.
as I said, I thought this film was phenomenal. So thank you so much for taking the time today.
Great. Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Great meeting you. I can't wait for people to see this one. Thank you again.
Great. Thank you.